N-word doesn't
be
exist.
grateful.
Yeah.
I'm just appreciate it.
No, just for, and that's why I'm going to say the N-word
assessing.
too, so we all respect.
Yeah, I'm just so glad I'm here for
N-word
this.
itself, is it
Very
anywhere in
educational,
the
yeah.
Bible?
Very unbiased.
The Torah is written in Hebrew.
Yeah.
The
So I
N-word is
believe,
nowhere in
so
there.
when we was outside, you heard me say, I believe from Genesis to Revelations. So
It's
the
nice to meet
N-word
new
is
people.
in the New Testament. When it described the disciples in Acts 13:1, it called them
Scary too, if you think about
N-
it.
pronounced as we would say the N-word. And it just means
Do
black.
you want him to say it right now, just so we know what you're talking about?
That's why I'm not saying it.
So when we're having a discussion, I think it's important to understand that you and I agree in the Jewish scriptures. Everything
But
to
the
the
New
left of Matthew.
Testament
So for example, if a Mormon came up to a Christian and said, "Hey, I believe in the veracity of the New Testament, but now there's something else," every Christian would rightfully say, "Well, if we believe in the New Testament, then you have to show me Joseph Smith from the New Testament." And
So
then
what
maybe I'll
book do
believe
you
there's a
stop
sequel.
at?
What I would say is
what book
you have to
do
show
you
me
stop at?
Jesus in the Jewish scriptures, and then we could talk about the New
What
Testament.
book do you stop at?
After Malachi.
Do you keep Hanukkah?
I keep Hanukkah.
So that's after Malachi. You do
That's
know
right.
that.
So
okay, then. So do you keep the book of Maccabees? Yes or no?
So if you're talking about Deuteronomy
Do
4,
you keep the book of Maccabees? Yes or no?
no, we don't. When you say keep, we keep the oral law, the written law.
But I'm asking you, if you keep Hanukkah, Hanukkah is in the book of Maccabees. When
That's right.
Judas, okay, then.
That's right.
So do you read that book?
I mean, no, I don't. It's not part
Then
of.
you don't. You can't. Okay, this is when we say the white man is the devil because he said he don't keep nothing after Malachi, but then he said he celebrates Hanukkah,
no.
which is in a book
I
after
didn't-
Malachi.
I didn't say.
What does
I
that
don't
have to
keep
do with the devil?
Anything. I didn't
Why
say
a
I
white
don't.
man would be a
The
devil?
word devil just means deceiver. So
Okay,
he's
I
saying.
didn't
But you
say
think the
I
average
don't
white
keep
man is the devil?
anything
Yeah.
after.
Really? Yeah.
By the way, the Bible itself refers to Hanukkah. In Leviticus 23, it talks about all the Jewish holidays.
Hanukkah is about the 8-day celebration when Mattathias went to war with the Greeks and won the war. They had an 8-day celebration. That's why they light 8 candles. They have the 8 candles that they light for it. And that's in the book of Maccabees. So that's a book outside of Malachi.
No,
so when you say you stop at Malachi, but you celebrate Hanukkah,
Torah's
we got a
all new
conundrum
material.
there.
It's a
So
brand
my
new
point
hour.
in saying that is,
It's different
when
if you see something
Christ
special.
and the disciples rode, they were Israelites too. So that is a part of the Israelite history too.
Okay.
And in Acts 13:1, when that N word is used, it means black. It's from the Latin word that just means black. And that's what they call the Israelites in the New Testament.
It's not in a black church. It's here at Israel United in Christ. Read it again. But they refused to hearken and pulled away their shoulder and stopped their ears that they should not hear. Well, what's the purpose? That they should not hear. Yea, they made their hearts as an adamant stone. So they means about that person. Read that again. Yea, they made their hearts.
All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, which is to say in the Paleo Hebrew, Yahweh, which is the name of our Heavenly Father, meaning He is, and that is who the world ignorantly calls God. Bahashem, meaning in the name, Yahweh Shai, meaning He is our salvation. And that is who the world also ignorantly calls Jesus, a so-called black man, who, by the way, only came for the Israelites. All right. Now, what brings us to our discussion / topic this early morning is that IUSPK and IUIC takes center stage. All right. IUSPK and IUIC take center stage. All right. Now, the first clip was a couple of minutes long of Captain, once again, going on to these podcasts, interviews and shows to, in his eyes, spread the word or the gospel, to non-believers. All right. Now, here he is in a setting or an environment with so-called Jewish or Jewish people, alongside with a few other Edomites, and just there for what? What purpose? All right? They're not going to change their views or their outcome or outlook on what they believe. Okay? Now, I know some of you will say, well, he's reaching others that may watch that podcast, that guy, Metin Bayan, whatever his name is, has a large following. But if the Lord isn't dealing with them, they're not going to see it. They're not going to get it or receive it at all anyways, okay? So just because you go on syndicate podcasts or interviews that have a large following group or base doesn't mean everybody's going to receive it, okay? If the Lord doesn't open up the eyes of any of them, none of them may receive it or get it, all right? And then you have the IUIC protest march against the 2819 church, where they show up in droves, to preach to the people out there. That's another thing, okay? All those people there, they not coming to see you, all right? They're not here to take heed to the warning. They came here for a specific reason, okay? To see Pastor Pam, or whatever his name is, the head person in charge of 2819 church. But you see, these individuals, they just want to be seen, so they come on these large syndicates and they show up at these large venues so that they can make a name for their organizations, okay? This is all what it comes down to, all right? So this is the definition of taking center stage. It says to take center stage means to become the most important, noticeable, or central focus of attention. And this is what it's all about. We're the number one group in Israel, all right? We have the biggest following, okay? Join our camp, join our organization, all right? Because why? At the end of the day, it's all about money, okay? This is all why they going on these podcasts, showing up at these venues to garnish more attention to their organization so that they can receive more people to join so that they can what? Merchandise on that, okay? And then the truth is somewhere along the line of the second or third second or third, reason, all right? But the first primary reason that they go to these venues is so that they can large or expand their organization, all right? To reach more people to join them, okay? This is what it all comes down to, okay? So this is to take center stage one more time, means to become the most important, noticeable, or central focus of attention. Whereas if you just preaching the word, the truth is going to attract those that are drawn to it, all right? You don't need the theatrics of going on these podcasts with individuals that have millions of followers and viewers and showing up at this venue with, thousands upon thousands of people are there, okay? The truth is going to draw in who it is supposed to draw in, all right? The elect, all right? Because you somehow have the understanding or the notion that if you have the most popular Israelite camp or group out of all the groups or camps, then the truth must be dwelling within you because the numbers say so. That's not how it goes down to, all right? It's your doctrine. How does your doctrine line up, okay? Is it impenetrable? Can it be broken down? Does it line up everything strict by the book, all right? That's how you base whether or not you have the truth, okay? Not the sheer numbers of followers or members that you may have, okay? Because if you telling them that the mark of the beast is something else other than what it is, guess what? That's just a larger group of people that's going to be what? Led into the ditch, all right? Which is going into basically what we're talking about, all right? Because you can do nothing for the truth. You can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth, all right? So everything happens for the betterment of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, okay? It says, it originates from the theater where the center of the stage is the most prominent position and is used metaphorically to describe a person, topic, or issue that is receiving the most attention. Right. And this is the mindset or the primary reason that they go to these large venues, go on these large podcast shows so that they can receive the center of attention for their organization. All right. To get more people to join. All right. They don't care if those people stay or leave, all right? Because it's like a revolving door, okay? They're going to keep moving and keep bringing in that revenue, all right, up until that time where the mark of the beast is made mandatory, and then they're going to have a dilemma to explain, okay? See? So they racking up the money left and right, hands over fist, until it transfers into what? That digital currency, and they got to explain to all the members about what's this new device where you got to put it inside your right hand or your dominant hand or your forehead in order to receive all your goods, money, credits, healthcare, passport, you name it. Then they're going to have a dilemma. Then it ain't going to be so popular then, okay, to be the center of attention or to take the center stage. But right now, they doing it, man. Okay, they doing it. All right. They the talk of the town in the so-called quote-unquote Israelite community, all right? But we're going to see how popular it is in that day when the mark of the beast is made mandatory, all right? So let's go to 2 Corinthians 4:3. It reads, but if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. See? So the fact that you're trying to go and prophesy and try to wake up these individuals that ain't meant to get it, it's just not happening, all right? Which leads to believe that there's some other reason of you wanting to be the center of attention or taking the center stage, all right? And that's to further up your organization or group into expanding and becoming large so that you can be the biggest talk of the town in the so-called community, you know, the Israelite community, all right? That's what it's all going down. That's what it all boils down to. Who is the biggest camp that has the biggest followers, that has the most, you know, what's the word? That has the most cachet, you know, out of all Israel. Because this is all it comes down to. It ain't about the truth no more, man. All right? I mean, it's about the truth, but they making it second and third, you know. They not making it the number one primary reason, all right? But it's all working for the betterment of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, nevertheless. So it says, but if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, right? So you can go on these syndicate podcast shows with millions of followers. You can show up to these venues with thousands of people outside, and they ain't gonna get it because why? They're lost. Okay, they're not going to be woken up to this truth if they're not of the elect. It says, in whom the God of this world have blinded the minds of them, which believe not. See, you can't force this onto someone, okay? But see, this is the era and the age that we're in now, okay? We're transitioning to where it's more popular to be about yourself than this word, okay? All right, because in both of these schools beginnings, they had a little bit more meekness and humble to them, where they what? Exalted the names to the nth degree. You couldn't go without hearing Yahweh and Yahweh Shai from IUIC and IUSPK. All right, but now their stance on the names have softened up to where they just use Jesus and Christ for the majority of the time. And God, all right? Showing you the doctrine that's wavering, you know? They no longer put Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai above all, but now they put themselves there, okay? And they use Christ and Jesus and God now, all right? So it says, in whom the God of this world have blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of the anointed, the Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai, who is the image of the Most High, should shine unto them. So here it is, you going all throughout YouTube and all throughout the world to try to garnish attention and spread the gospel. All right, that's the cover, or that's under the guides of what you're using this, ministry to do, is to spread the gospel. But in actuality, you're just garnishing more attention and trying to attract more members to your organization. Because why? The more the merrier. That brings in a lot of more revenue. Okay? It says, in whom the God of this world have blinded the minds of them which believe not. Right. They under that heavy Christianity. You can't tell them that Jesus didn't come to die for the whole world. That's just going to be the way it's going to be. All right. Or, these small hats, they believe that, whatever it is they believe. You can't convince them of anything else, man. All right. It is what it is. Okay. But we understand it looks good for the theatrics. It gets the views, it gets the likes, which brings in revenue, which, keeps the money flowing. But hey, as it says, better is the end of a thing than the beginning, because once this thing comes to a boiling point at a head, and you got to say to your congregation, take the mark of the beast, then it's gonna be, hey, you better get out of, you better get the hell out of town. You better get the hell out of town, because you're gonna have a lot of explaining to do. All right, you're gonna have a lot of explaining to do when that day comes. All right, see, and that's another reason you probably don't believe that day is coming anytime soon. All right, which is why you're trying to give the so-called quote unquote illusion of building the black community. All right, because you don't want the mark of the beast to come. All right, you living too lavishly now. All right, you don't want end time prophecies to come. All right, like you should. Yeah, you want them to come, but not anytime soon. Because why? You making too much hand over fist money, man. All right, you wanted to probably come 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years from now. You don't want it to come 2-3 years ago. Like, that's how bad you should want it to come. All right, you wanted to come after you done got your nice fancy house, your cars, your clothes, you done got your businesses up and running. You wanted to come after all of that. You don't want it to come like it should have came 2 days ago or 2 years ago. That's how bad we want it, man. All right? That's why, hey, you ain't gonna see brothers that's actually in it for the real reason and purpose going on these podcasts. For what? For what purpose? Other than to try to make a name for yourself and showing up at these venues where thousands upon thousands of people are, all right, just so you can make a name, all right? It says, in whom the God of this world have blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of the anointed, who is the image of the Most High, should shine unto them. See? So although you're trying to put yourself in the position to go and spread it and be in a large venue or a platform, if the Lord ain't going to wake them people up, he ain't going to wake them up, man. You can go on to a podcast that got Mr. Beast, for instance, that has hundreds of millions of subscribers. And if the Lord ain't dealing with none of them subscribers or followers, they ain't going to receive it anyways. All right? You can go to a venue such as, what's a big venue or a platform? You can go to a venue such as Bishop T.D. Jakes, Joel Osteen, Creflo Dollar, all in the same night. And if the Lord ain't dealing with no people, none of them going to wake up to the truth, man. All right? So it doesn't matter that you go to these big venues, these big platforms. All right. If the Lord has blinded their minds, they're not going to receive it. All right. But it looks good for theatrics, to garnish more attention to your, because you might get a few people out of that want to join your organization. All right. But like I said, it's for the wrong reason. They're going to join it because, wow, they see a majestic looking, mighty, army of so-called black, Latino, and Native American men out there marching. They think to themselves, man, that's where it's got to be at, man. All right. See, not examining the doctrine to see how that lines up. They're just taken by awe at the sheer presence and numbers of people. Okay. And the same thing with going on the platforms. Man, they must know somebody to get on a platform like that. All right. The 95 South Show, this podcast, Whack podcast, man, they must have some connections, man. They must be it. I want to join that organization. All right. Not even examining the doctrine. All right. Not even praying to the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, that he directs them to the right prophets, teachers, that's going to give them sound doctrine. Okay. They just at all and taken by surprise about the numbers of people that they see in the organizations, or that they can get on and rub shoulders with celebrities. Oh man, yeah, the IUSPK or the ISUPK, they running elbows with the guy Sal Volcano from Impractical Jokers, or Whack, or DC Young Fly. Man, that's cool, man. I like to see. Then you start looking at them as idols. All right, you start looking at them, as someone that you want to be like. Study this truth. All right, you supposed to look at Yahweh Shai. All right, see. So it says, verse 5, for we preach not ourselves, but Yahweh Shai Hamashiach the Lord. See, this is what it's supposed to be about. You're supposed to be preaching about Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. See, but to the untrained eye, someone looking in, they see in this large million-man march of Israelites with all purple and gold, they want to join that. Or they see the Israelites that can go onto these podcasts and rub shoulders with famous celebrities and things of that magnitude. They want to join that. All right. They don't want to join the Israelites that teach about Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, constantly exalting the names. No, that's too boring. That's too dull. All right. But that's how it's supposed to be. All right. That's how it's supposed to be. All right. The Lord is looking for that very small remnant. He ain't looking for that whole sea of people. Okay. So it says, for we preach not ourselves, but Hamashiach Yahweh Shai the Lord, and ourselves your servants for Yahweh Shai's sake. See, everything is for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. We come sucking to that, okay? And that's just the way it is, okay? Whether we have large numbers or not, okay? Whether we have a large following or not, okay? We still gonna preach the doctrine. We ain't gonna switch it up so that we can get more people, all right? Because why? That's not where it's all about, all right? Having a large number doesn't mean that you got the correct doctrine, all right? Where's that at? I want to look for this one precept. Supposing godliness is gain. It was right there in front of my face, man. It says, perverse disputing of men of corrupt minds and destitute of truth, 1 Timothy 6:5. Supposing that gain is godliness. See? This is how they rationalize or justify having sure numbers of being godliness. It says, supposing that gain is godliness. From such withdraw thyself, right? Because they don't have your best interest at heart in teaching you the truth. All right. Their number one priority is gain, getting more, having more subscribers, having more followers, having having a larger congregation. Let's look up that word gain in the Greek. It goes into per ismos, all right? It says acquisition, gain, source of gain. So they want to acquisite, or you see, let's just look at this word acquisition.
Acquisition.
An asset or object bought or obtained, typically by a library or museum, to learn or developing of a skill, habit, or quality, right? So they want to acquisition. They want a object bought or obtained. They want to acquisite as many people as they can. Okay? Because why? They suppose that gain is godliness. Okay? That's what it all boils down to. All right? So 1 Timothy 6:5, perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness. That's all that they think about, all right, from the top down, all right? We got to get more followers. Where can we go to expand our group, our organization, our camp? Where can we go? Oh, they having a concert out at the 2819 church. Let's go there. Oh, this individual is going to allow us to come on their podcast that has millions of followers. Let's go there. We can probably get some more people to come to our organization like that. All right. Not trying to work on the doctrine and make sure the doctrine is lined up, because that mark of the beast is a very important prophecy, man. So it says, but godliness with contentment is great gain. See, that's what it's all about, man. Whatever the Lord gives you. Okay. You see, if he gives you 50 people, hey, that's contentment. All right. If he gives you 50,000 people, that's contentment. All right. But you don't try to force the issue or press the issue and try to get more than what you want in its due time. All right. Because what you don't know is what you're trying to get may end up and come back and bite you in the rear end. All right. But nevertheless, as it reads in 2 Corinthians 13:8, it says, for we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth, right? Because now that all those people witnessed the Israelites, IUIC out there at 2819 Church, and the few thousands of people that's going to see ISUPK on that podcast, they have no more cloak for their sins, especially if they're Israelites, okay? They can now say, hey, the Lord now can bring forth the judgment, all right? Which is why you may very well see more and more of these camps in their mind thinking that they're doing the will of the Lord by going out to these large venues and going on to these podcast shows, but they're doing the will that now that the individual has heard and seen, they can no longer use plausible deniability, that they didn't know the truth, because now you heard it. All right, you heard. All right, you seen it. Okay, that would have gave you enough inclination, if you were of the elect, to dig deeper into it. Okay, but you can't say you didn't hear it. All right. So it says, for we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. All right. So even though they're using their image or their organization to garnish more attention, they're also, the Lord is using them to condemn these other people that hear him and see him. All right. Especially our people, the 2/3. All right. Because you seen it. All right. You seen the clip of IUIC up there at the 2819 church, and the people out there looking like they don't want to be, bothered with that. But one thing they can't say is they didn't have the opportunity. All right. So this is John 15 and 22. It says, Yahweh Shah speaking, if I had not come and spoken unto them, they had not had sin. But now they have no cloak for their sin. You see? So now, hey, if they didn't hear about the Hebrew Israelite, they heard about it now. All right. And we know Esau gonna try to put and has put a disdainment to where they call the black Hebrew Israelites. So now just by that notion alone, hey, you rejected the truth. All right. You heard, all right, BHI, black Hebrew Israelite. All right. Now the elect, if they was there, they would have thought to look into it. Why is these men out here? Why is he on this podcast? Why are they calling him them black Hebrew Israelites? Why he saying he's the Israelite? And why is this so-called Jew over here saying that he's an Israelite? Let me do my research further. All right. That's the mindset of an elect that would be, come across these individuals. But if the Lord got them people blinded, they ain't going to see it. They ain't going to receive it. All right. So they just have to wait and get it into the kingdom if they of the stock of Israel. All right. So we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. All right. So even in their attempt to garnish attention for themselves, they're bringing the notification, or they bringing the awareness of the Hebrew Israelites. All right. And that these people reject, they're going to be what? Subject to be judgment, and judgment is getting ready to come. All right. We're already in the beginning stages of Jacob's trouble. So once this word goes out and it accomplished what it's supposed to, which we believe it has, the Lord is going to reel it in, and then he's going to let the judgment begin. And one thing they can't say is they didn't have a chance. Okay. Because as we see, there was thousands upon thousands of people out there, and they see the Hebrew Israelites, whether they want to attach a bad connotation to it as black Hebrew Israelites, they still seen it. Whether he wants to bring on Captain Tazariak on his show as some type of amusement or joke, they can't deny. They seen it. Okay. So we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. All right. So, hey, IUIC and ISUPK, they took the center stage, but it's the Lord that's using everything and that's doing everything. So the Lord is the centerpiece of everything. Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shah. So we're going to close out with that and take it to 1 Peter 5 and 8. And this is 1 Peter chapter 5 and 8. It reads, be sober, be vigilant. See? Why? Because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. Right. So, hey, if you have a small following, but you preaching the truth and you're not wavering, you're vigilant, you're sober. If you allow the devil to come in and corrupt your teaching because you want to see that this is the time, the period to capitalize on this whole Hebrew Israelite thing, and you want to waver your doctrine to make it more world friendly, then you've been had, you've been deceived, okay? And the devil could come in the form of impure thought, all right? Yeah, man, this is it, man. People are yearning for some type of solution and resolution to what's going on. Well, here we go. We got it. All right. But we got to preach this doctrine because we got a 501c3. We can't exalt the names as we once did. All right. Now we're moving up in the ranks. We got to use Christ and Jesus more often than God, because it's more friendly. But we'll still, throw in the black Jesus every now and then. But see, you've been altered, all right? You've been compromised, all right? The true men of the Lord, they're not going to be compromised. They're not going to switch up the name, all right? They're going to continue to exalt it all the way into the end. Which why? Because why? Because we believe the end is near. Matter of fact, we know the end is near. Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right? Yahweh Shai is coming. Okay? So we're going to exalt the names more frequently. All right? Because there's no better thing to do but then to exalt the names. Okay? So the end is near. All right? And we believe that Karagma, the RFID microchip, is indeed the mark of the beast. Okay? And they're getting ready to bring forth it soon. All right. But see, if you in the world, you don't want that to come. You want to use the Bible to build up the community. All right. Because why? Then they're going to come and look at you for answers and solutions. All right. And then you're going to be pretty much as to them an idol. All right. So be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. All right. So with that being said, pray someone was edified through this lesson. And until the next time, if it be the Lord's will, stay strong, stay in the faith. We're almost home. Shalom. Peace.